Hi! For today's bonus class, we'll look into the tasks requirements. This is a funny topic because it came from you, from students really. I initially had them included in the courses class about tasks, but I didn't really put a lot of emphasis onto this. For me, being in product management for many years, designing good, understandable product requirements feel like second nature, and thus this is something I did not think to elaborate, for me it's instinctive really, and it's not for many of you when we got to talk together. It was literally but where do I begin? How do I explain to the developers what I want them to achieve? Fear not, I'm here, I'm listening, let's look into this. So let's start with a fun metaphor to set the stage right. Imagine you are Captain James T. Kirk from the Starship Enterprise, or maybe Captain Catherine Janeway from the Starship Voyager, so you can place yourself to the right captain's seat. But in both situations, the stage is the same. You are traveling the galaxy, and one day you find a benevolent alien who transports you to an alien world with a different alien species already there. He tells you the following: if you want to survive, you need to get this person, the other alien, to create a toaster. He knows what bread is, he has never seen a toaster before. He can create everything from nothing, and you will both survive if I will get a toast soon. Okay, slightly absurd, I know, but the stage here is that the other person doesn't know what a toaster is. So you have to be really careful when explaining to that alien what a toaster is in order to get the right thing. If you miss proper requirements, then you will get an oven, for example, or something that doesn't resemble a toaster. Or maybe it will create toast that will always be burnt. That's where the challenge comes in. And it's almost the same with every IT task that you create. You sort of come from a point where you don't know how much of your vision and your direction did your team understand to begin with. And if they did, maybe they'll forget in some time. So that's where the requirements come in. They are often called acceptance criteria, or we can also make it a testing list, like we said in the course. However, let's look into the features of very effective acceptance criteria or task requirements. First of all, be sure to capture the right level of detail. You want to explain what you need, but without telling about every single pixel and every single detail of what should be there. There is technical spec and there are job requirements. What you want to make sure is that those requirements are clear and understood by the whole room. You can achieve that by bringing those task requirements in an early draft to a refinement meeting and then discuss it with the whole team to make sure they understand each point and involve them in creating the final list of task requirements. This way you will be all on the same page and there won't be any unnecessary surprises in the end. And you can also treat that list as a checkpoint reminder list. So in addition to describing the actual task, there is nothing wrong in making sure that the basic process principles are also included. And I mean items like create the documentation for this piece of software that we are releasing, add tracking, inform the marketing team about the new addition, yada. Things that probably should happen outside the task, but it will be difficult or embarrassing if this is somehow forgotten or not implemented, or whatever happens due to human nature that should happen to make it fully professional and completed. When designing this list, don't focus solely on the happy path. So for the optimal journey from A to Z, you have to also figure out what might be wrong and cover that. Whether if it's a blank cover all oops error, or you have specific situation and flows that you know that something might go wrong, and just cover them. Of course, those can be covered in a separate task outside the main one, but if you intend to cover the errors in the main task that you are processing, do not assume that developers will know by themselves to cover those errors. They will probably be the first one to point out that those are not covered, but it doesn't hurt to be ahead of them. Moreover, it makes you more professional and more thoughtful in creating those tasks. When writing those, it will be helpful to write them from user's perspective. So, user can connect his PayPal account to our software. Not a PayPal account can be connected. It's always good to get the user at the back of your head and remember that you're doing this for some people and it's going to be fun, it's going to be useful, and it's not machines doing something for machines. It's people for people, and if you don't like it something as a person when you do it, it's an opportunity to stand up, present your opinion, and that's actually more to your developers, that if you do not cover something in those requirements, but the user perspective and maybe using personas here will be really, really helpful. At the same time, coming back to the right level of detail, you can have a requirement that say the system is scalable and will maintain infinite number of users, but you shouldn't then put something like use specific database, use specific data structure. This is something that your team has to work out. You shouldn't be an expert in it. So it's alright to have additional task or subtask where a clearly technical item is being presented to create, and it's the team who owns the requirements for that to meet the original requirements from the core task. So they will focus on the right database, on the right setup of servers and this kind of things that you should not worry about. You should only be able to say whether you're doing something that just needs to work ASAP or you need something that works long term and you want to have it taken care of initially. Usually, just a sidetrack, you will not think of that at that time because you're probably experimenting, trying something, putting on an MVP, and time is of the essence. But if you're working on something more waterfallish or second iteration of some feature, then by all means, make sure it's scalable. And it's just an example, remember that. It's not the sole thing that can be technical in its nature. Like the design, where you can also implement the design and implement happy and unhappy paths into the product, but at the same time have a design task where you put on your requirements towards the design and it's done in a separate thread. And there you want to be high level, and just like with the developers, make sure that the designers have the freedom of expressing their best knowledge, their best known practices and their talent to create something you wouldn't come up on your own. So too detailed requirements will block them from doing perhaps a better job than with everything being too detailed. So those are my high-level suggestions on how to create good task requirements. Let's go back to the money-hungry alarm clock. And it's add PayPal payments requirements. I did that during the course when talking about tasks, but this version is slightly more detailed to fit more to this particular class. Here, for example, we have new option to connect an account to a PayPal account is added to the registration screen according to design. Same thing for the user profile, so it's in two places. We make sure that the connection is secure, it's stored in cloud, and it persists when logging to a different money-hungry alarm clock account somewhere on a different device. We make sure that it's possible to disconnect that PayPal account. We have a catch-all error implemented, but at the same time we do cover the incorrect logins error. And those details of the process like unique and automated testing implemented, tracking is implemented, and task document is updated. And yeah, that's all. That's actually not the final version. That's the one I would take to the room with the team and then discuss it. That's in this class. High level. Let's go back to preliminary version, or Captain Janeway and their fellow alien on a secluded world and their toaster conundrum. How should one of the captains approach this dilemma? Well, we all know what the toaster is. So, a toaster is a metal device that can change bread into toast and is ready and works under standard power supply on Earth. Its size is small and can fit into a typical kitchen. Well, the alien can ask what a kitchen is here, but let's leave it like this for now. It can hold two pieces of bread at the same time. So we are not limiting ourselves to any specific bread. We established that the alien knows what bread is. Bread is changed into toast using heat that is isolated within the device. So we know how the toast is created, and we also add the security feature of not being burned when the toaster is on. Bread is toasted evenly across its surface. So we know that the heat is not in point, but it has to be distributed, like those heating wires that are there. The device has a bread ejection mechanism that is linked to its on switch. So that's the thing that I don't think that any alien would consider to add in its toaster design if we were really specific. Now there isn't a second kitchen utility that actually has such a loading and popping mechanism. So to have a real toaster, we have to include that. Loading the bread into the toaster begins the toasting process. User can decide on the level of toasting, from slightly crunchy to almost burnt. When the set level of toasting is reached, the toast is lifted so that it sticks out in half. Ejection is accompanied by ding sound, which means that the toast is ready. So let's give those requirements to our alien and see if we get toaster! Yeah, let's see if our benevolent alien liked the toast. Yep, Captain Kirk and Captain Janeway are safe. We just met a new alien, we learned how to make good task requirements, and that's all for this class. Live long and prosper.